Hi class, I wanted to make a video for this particular announcement because we have a really big week coming up, and that is with your final submission being due at the end of week 7. So I wanted to kind of go over the rubric real quick here. This is something that you should have already looked at by this point, but if you haven't had a chance to look at the final project rubric, I would highly suggest that you finish watching this video as well as going over it yourself as well. And just like every other assignment we've done so far this term, you should be making sure that you are thoroughly reading through the guideline, as that's kind of like the blueprint for how you should do an assignment. And then, of course, looking at the rubric itself, because that is what I'm using to grade your assignment to ensure that you are fully answering each critical element. So, you have been doing some assignments all throughout the term that have been solidifying some topics that you've learned so far this term, but also looking at some assignments that have been kind of grooming you and helping you to get to the point where we are working on this final project here. So, for the prompt, based on your knowledge of human relations, you're going to be writing a paper addressing the different factors that have influenced your leadership philosophy. And we're going to be looking at different things that we've looked at all term, which is your personality, perception, different leadership styles, and of course, self-concept. And so this final project is broken up into 3 main parts. And you may have already noticed that part 1 of this paper, which is the personality and self-concept, you already did this when we did our milestone 1. And so if you did really great on that assignment, then you probably don't have much to do here. And 1/3 of this assignment is already done. But if you didn't get a 100%, on your milestone 1, go back into the grade section and take a look at the grades and feedback that I gave you on milestone 1, because if you did have anything to improve upon for this particular assignment, I provided you that detailed feedback. So make sure you're looking at that early on and let me know if you have any questions. But essentially, for this particular paper, all 3 sections are going to be on the template. This particular project does have a template that you will actually be putting all of your answers on. And you'll notice here that the personal leadership reflection template is linked right in the rubric itself. It's a hyperlink, a clickable link, but also take a look at my class announcement as well, because I also link the template there. So the template's going to bring you to this Microsoft Word document. And the way you're going to set this up first is by putting in your name, your major, student ID number, and your anticipated graduation date. If you're not sure what your anticipated graduation date is, you can either connect with your academic advisor or pull up your program evaluation in your student portal. Take a look at what you still have left, dividing it by how many courses you typically take per term, and you'll be able to give yourself that expected graduation date more or less. So getting to the actual assignment, section 1 here is the personality and self-concept. So you want to make sure that everything for section 1, that first major section of your paper, is put right here. And all you need to do is just click right here to enter your text. So maybe you're going to be typing right into that box, or maybe you're going to be copying and pasting. Maybe you wrote up your answers in a different document and you're just going to copy and paste it over. So for the critical element for section number 1. In this section, you will devote 1 detailed paragraph to your identified strengths and weaknesses as you consider future leadership opportunities. You may also draw from your SWOT analysis in your responses. Please be sure to address the following in the 2 sections of your paragraph: strengths and areas for improvement. Now, this A and B right here is going to be the same as what was in milestone 1. So nothing is different there. So essentially, you're just going to be pulling from what you did in milestone 1, putting it here. But you might also want to consider going back and revisiting milestone 2 when we did the SWOT analysis. Take a look at that. What are those strengths and weaknesses that you input into your SWOT analysis? Maybe revisit those, talk about them, dive deep. And of course, you need to have at least 1 paragraph here, but feel free to have more than 1 paragraph. I'm not putting like a maximum on how much you should be writing here, but at minimum, it really needs to be at least 1 paragraph, because that's the length that is going to take you at minimum to answer the critical element. So moving on to section 2 here is human interaction skills. So on the Word document, that's going to be the second paragraph right here, section 2. And again, just like in section 1, you're going to click on that text box that says click to enter text here. And that's where you can either type in your answers or you can copy and paste your answers from a different Word document, however your writing process works. So for this particular section, you're going to notice there's an A, B, and C, and you want to make sure that you're hitting each and every critical element here for full points. Historically, section 2 is where I see the most points lost, so just be really careful, okay? So in 2 paragraphs, you're going to identify 2 specific skills, drawing from your course readings and your own experiences that you can positively influence the workplace productivity, engagement, and or motivation. So we're talking about 2 skills that a leader should possess in order to influence positively, of course, workplace productivity, engagement, and motivation. We kind of talked about this in one of our short papers where we kind of zoned in and focused on productivity, engagement, and motivation. And in that short paper, you were asked to talk about a couple different skills and things that people, leaders, and organizations can do to influence these particular areas. So really, you're just going to be drawing from that short paper, essentially. So make sure that you're going back and taking a look at the feedback that I gave you on our short paper where we went over that, because that's going to be really important in helping you shape this particular section and maybe even leaving yourself less work, because these are areas that we've already touched on in this class. So again, 2 skills, you could potentially just have 2 paragraphs. So first paragraph would be for the first skill, second paragraph would be for the second skill. You really want to keep these 2 skills separate here, and you don't want to be jumbling them all together, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So in your discussion of each skill, you need to be sure to address the following questions underneath each skill. So let's say I wanted skill number 1 to be communication. You need to make sure that in your first paragraph about your skill that you're addressing A, B, and C. So A is description of the skill. What is the skill and how is it used in personnel management? So for A, in each of your paragraphs, you're going to be describing your skill and how it's used in an organization. This is part B here is how specifically would this skill positively impact engagement and motivation? So how can this skill be used by a leader or an organization to influence productivity in the not productivity, engagement and motivation in the workplace? Really think about this. How can a leader use this skill to engage employees, get them motivated and excited about what they're doing? Because that's going to impact the work that they do. So make sure that in each of your paragraphs, as you're talking about each skill, you're touching on that specifically for full points. And then part C, the intended impact. How specifically does this skill positively influence workplace productivity? So for example, if communication is one of the skills, you need to talk specifically about how this skill positively influences productivity. How can a leader use this skill to help employees be more productive, help the company as a whole be more productive? Feel free to draw on your personal experiences here. Feel free to jump into the textbooks and look at maybe some of the processes, policies, tools, and resources that leaders can use and talk about them, because drawing from external resources as well is going to strengthen your point of view. Just make sure that if you're going to be using some sources that you're doing it in APA formatting. So that right there is your section 2. So now we're moving on to section 3, the personal development plan. So on our Word document here, it starts on the bottom of page 1, but it does start to creep into page 2 here because there's 2 major sections. So going back to the rubric, the personal development plan is you're going to be bringing together your reflections on personality, self-concept, and human interaction skills in order to create actionable steps for your future as a leader. So first, you're going to have one final paragraph answering the first prompt. And then the second part of this section is identifying 3 specific goals you have to enhance your skills as a leader. So, going to part A, this is the reflection paragraph. You need to have at least one paragraph here reflecting on how this class, this experience, this past 8 weeks has helped shape your personal leadership philosophy. So, what is your leadership philosophy? What do you see in a leader? What do you think that a leader needs to be? And how has this class, how has this experience shaped that? I would love to, hear what you thought of the class. Maybe include some specific areas that really resonated with you. What about this class has changed your perspective, if any? Not a lot of people come into this class having a personal leadership philosophy, or they may not even realize that they already had one. But oftentimes, by the time we get to the end of this class, people tend to be fairly certain about what kind of person they are, what kind of leader they are. Talk about that and make sure that you're being specific in your answers. And then getting into the second part of the assignment here, part B for section 3, you're going to use the provided template to identify those relevant goals to enhance your skills as a leader and those specific action steps that you're going to take to achieve those goals. You're also going to be talking about potential obstacles that you may face, because we all have them, and what your plan is to overcome those obstacles. So if we go back to the Word document here, you're going to see that on page 2, it already has the layout for you for those 3 goals. So maybe goal number 1 is that you want to um, be a better public speaker, because sometimes being a leader is going to require you to be comfortable speaking in public. So maybe that's your goal. Okay, so that's your goal. What are the action steps that you can take to achieve this goal? Talk about the specific things that you can do to help you get better with public speaking. What do you think are the action items that you need to take to get better with public speaking? And it's not a one size fits all. Maybe 2 people want to both get better at public speaking, but they both need to take different steps to get there. Maybe it's volunteering to lead projects, so that way you're building up confidence in yourself. Maybe it's taking a public speaking class. Maybe it is doing a whole number of things, but making sure that you're laying out what those action steps are that you need to take to get better at whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And then, of course, with every goal, there's going to be potential obstacles that you may face when you're working towards achieving this goal. So whatever your goal is, what are those potential obstacles that might hold you back from achieving that goal? And talk about what those are, because it's important that we know what our threats are when it comes to us achieving our goals, because then we can spot them, we could potentially be ready for them and nip them in the bud before it derails us. And then, of course, what is your plan to overcome these potential obstacles? So just like I was saying, is that those potential obstacles might be inevitable. You might definitely be facing those when you're trying to reach your end goal. But what is your plan to overcome them if you start to see this obstacle creep up? So you don't need to do anything groundbreaking as far as formatting this particular paper. You just need to make sure that you're filling in each section. So here is 3 specific goals, answering each question, and that's how you're going to get full points here. And then, of course, if you are going to be doing any references or outside sources in your paper, you're going to want to make sure that you have an extra page at the end of this paper here for your references. Remember, even though this paper is formatted for you, we still want to be keeping up with those APA formatting rules as best as possible. So make sure you're going through and doing that. And of course, if you have any questions at all, I want you to reach out to me as soon as possible, so that way you and I can talk and go over your assignment. This assignment is due Sunday of week 7, so try to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time ahead of time before the assignment is due, in order to make sure that you're putting in the maximum effort that is needed. If you scroll down to the last pages here, page 3 and 4 of the guideline and rubric, you'll see that it breaks down each and every critical element and what it's going to take to get maximum points for each critical element, and then all the way over on the right, what the point value is for each critical element, which is going to bring us to 100%. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this video. I really hope that you got something out of this and that you understand a little bit more how to do this assignment. Make sure that you are submitting your assignment using the templates, and I really look forward to seeing everybody's submissions. So I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys all in the class announcements and discussion boards. Bye bye.